So, good morning, Andy. Welcome to my podcast, One for the Road. How are you doing today, mate?
Dave, mate, I'm very well. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on. I feel privileged to be here in your library, mate. So thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a joy, mate. And we're going to talk about what you're up to in the coming few months later on. But it's a fascinating story. And I thought I'd get you on to chat about your own journey, my favorite word, journey, and where it all started off, mate. So, do you want to wind it back to the beginning?
Yeah. So childhood for me, pretty standard, really. I've got an older brother by 18 months. Mum and dad, they're still together, bless them, in their 70s. But yeah, it was a fairly sort of standard British household. And I was always kind of the little naughty, cheeky chappy, if you like. In primary school, kind of always sort of high energy. Got to high school age and things didn't sit quite right. Things were a little bit kind of unusual for me. I just couldn't concentrate for long periods of time. I was very boisterous. I was a boy's boy, do you know what I mean? And I really started to struggle in the classroom environment. And I think that was, well, I know now it was ADHD, and mum and dad were brilliant with me. I've got dyslexia as well, and they had me assessed. But because it was sort of early 90s, I got the ADHD diagnosis, but no one knew what it was. It's like, well,
Mm.
yeah, you've got this. You're a classic case ADHD. There you go. Okay, so what does that mean? And they said, well, you can have Ritalin, you can have this pill that comes along with it if you like. And we didn't. Mum made a conscious decision not to put me on the medication. And things just got more and more difficult. I was now second year of high school and I got expelled. And I just from being a pain in the ass in the classroom, just the typical naughty boy syndrome, you know. And mum and dad, bless them, I don't know if they remortgaged the house or what they did, but they were on it and they sent me to the local grammar school, Stafford Grammar, and it was smaller classrooms, private school, better results, and all of that good stuff. Um, but even still, I was expelled from there, and by the time I got to my GCSE age, things were getting really messy at home as well. I was quite a big guy. I was for a teenager, and things were getting a bit on top at home. Mum and dad were brilliant. Like I say, bless them. They just wanted the best for me. They wanted to do what was right for me, but I just couldn't be in the same house as them anymore. Then left home at the time of my GCSEs, and I actually took my GCSEs living at a mate's house. And one thing that I kind of also want to do in parallel to that is how much sport I was doing at the time. I found a lot of sanctitude in sport. I as a kid I did a lot of swimming for the town. It was 3 or 4 training sessions a week plus a gala on a weekend. And then I discovered rugby and judo and cricket. And I think for mum and dad, it's like, yes, just anything, just get him into sport. My dad was always very sporty, and I think it did a lot for him, but it was just to tire me out, I think, as much as anything else, because I definitely have the hyperactivity aspect of ADHD. I know there's ADD where the hyperactivity doesn't come along with it, but I've still got it as an adult. Like I've never grown out of that. And I think, yeah, the sport was fantastic, especially rugby. And I think primarily mum and dad didn't put me on the Ritalin in my sort of mid late teens because it was in the late 90s, mid late 90s, and rugby was just starting to go professional. And I'd got up to kind of regional level trials. There was lads with England flags on, or England roses on their clipboards, rather than look at me and say, right, your game knowledge is there. Just go away for the summer, get fitter, get stronger, come back. We'll have another look at you in the start of next season. And that was at the exact same time as my GCSEs. And I just thought it was the whole kind of coming of age thing. I thought it was late teens, learning to drive, discovering nightclubs. I had a few quid, I had a job, and I discovered weed, alcohol, ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, and magic mushrooms, all at that really sort of crucial time for the sport, you know. But what I didn't know was happening then, I just thought it's, oh, you know, I'm old enough now. I can go to the clubs. I can start doing this, start doing that. And it was all a really exciting kind of dynamic time for me socially. What I was actually doing was memorizing all the shit that made me forget about how hard the GCSEs were, how hard getting kicked out of home was, how all this kind of difficult, stressful time was getting escaped by the use of illicit drugs and alcohol on a weekend. So that kind of takes me up to the point in my 20s. And so that's kind of a clip of my childhood, really, is boisterous ADHD, expelled from schools, difficult at home, discovered drugs.
How did it feel living in that era, that ADHD? We don't have the knowledge. We didn't have the knowledge that we do now. I mean, it's all over the place now, isn't it? Wherever you
Mhm.
look, it's like, you know, especially with us addicts, that it's like, oh, I think I've got ADHD because, you know, there's so many symptoms available now. But living as a
Mhm.
lad that's always in trouble and kind of attention seeking at times as well, right? And
Mm.
the hyperactivity in that, and then finding out you had ADHD. How was that living like that in your body?
So that's a good question, Dave. I used to get frustrated. I got frustrated in the classroom environment, which of course is so sort of domineering at that age. Like, you've got to do well. There's all these social pressures to do well in your GCSEs. You're at a grammar school now. You've got to get these results, otherwise you're going to make the school look bad and blah blah blah. So there was that frustration, but there was always the notion that I was good at the sporting side and the physicality. And it used to be like, when you know, when the kids are scrapping at school in the
Mm,
playground, like, it was all against Stony. Let's all get him, and I'd win. Like, do you
yeah,
know what I mean? And like rugby training at school, or just any kind of PE or games lesson, I was, you know, one of the captains or first to be picked. So I kind of still had an area where I just knew if I just sit it out, just sit it out. It's like, right, now for this hour and a half lesson, Andy's time to shine. Do you know what I mean? So uh, there was the frustration of the dyslexia, and the ADHD, and sort of being considered a bit of a thicko, and the naughty boy, and having to almost, then I kind of started living up to that badge, if you like. There was the whole concept then in late teens, because I've got my brother who's 18 months older. He was 2 years, 2 academic years above. And at that age, that's those 2 years are significant. And so because I'd gone to the comp, got expelled, swapped mates, went to the grammar, which mum and dad were obviously after, but then I wasn't there long enough to make any real mates. And then I came back to the comp and kind of saw a few of my old mates, but that fizzled out. And what I now know of ADHD is it's incredibly difficult to sustain long-term relationships anyway. But because of all the chopping and changing, I then ended up with my brother's lot. They were consistently around more because they were my brother's mates, and he didn't have that issue. And so then I started to have to sort of live up to people 2 years above me. And so I then had that kind of pressure on myself to, like, right, well, I've got to smoke as much weed as these. Like, I've got to look as cool. I've got to have the same clothes. I've got to, like, getting my driver's license. And then all of a sudden I've got to drive my car like a chavvy sort of boy racer, the same as they do. And all this kind of stuff, that it went from proving myself in sport to proving myself socially, like on a street level. Does that make sense?
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that myself. I mean, I was always in the football team, rugby team, and whatnot.
Mm,
But when it come to being streetwise and all that, I wasn't. Weirdly, you'd think being in a team would make me, but you know, it's when I first started drinking, I kind of realised I had to fit in with that lot. So I was always taking their lead. I didn't have my own opinion. So if they said drink this, drink more, 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 I would to fit in.
mm, mm.
But then I realised actually that's where I did fit in, because I've said before I was the funny guy. I was never the fighter. I was the funny guy.
Hmm.
So I kind of shape shifted around them to be what I thought they wanted me to be.
Mate, exactly that. You've hit the nail on the head for me there. It's like if I'm to hang around with these lot and not get on the nerves and not piss them off, and I blamed a lot of my early use of drugs on being cool, just trying to be cool, and that got me in a lot of trouble because it's it's the street cred, it's the acceptance of the older lot. It was kind of all of that stuff. But at the same time, I'd met a girl and I want to definitely bring her into the equation because I come from a family where they drink. They're not massive drinkers, but they're very accepting of alcohol. And whenever myself or my brother used to go to mum and dad's once we'd moved out, it revolved around booze, and no one had a problem with it. However, my girlfriend then, ex-wife now, um, her family don't drink at all. They might have a Bailey's on Christmas morning, or a dad, if he's had a particularly hot day in the field. They live in the sticks, and he was a self-employed blacksmith, and he did a lot of work on the land and stuff. But he might have a cider on a sunny afternoon when he's finished work, but nothing significant. And it really made it obvious how much, one, drugs I was using in my late teens, but two, how boozy I was becoming and how accepted it was in my family. And over the years, that then caused the two of us, to lock horns a lot on just the opinion of alcohol. And it raised a lot of red flags for her, saying Andy's drinking evolution, my drinking journey was not normal in her family's eyes.
Mm.
Which I guess was a blessing and a curse at the same time, really.
So did she not really drink?
She would, but she could take it or leave it. It's like my fiance now. They could just have a beer on holiday, like a fortnight
Yeah,
holiday. They might one day have a bottle of beer, and that would be it. And they'll open a bottle of wine, and the cork will go back in it.
I know. When I was in the old carpet trade, I used to I'd say, "Oh, help yourself to tea." And I'd go in the kitchen, and there was a bottle with a wine stopper in with about 2 inches of wine in the bottom. And I was like, I couldn't understand it. Do you know
No,
what I mean? Like,
yeah,
just finish the bottle and clean your teeth kind of thing. But, it's also, if she was brought up like that, it's learned behavior a lot of the time, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
and I've said before that if you came to me and said, Dave, mate, I've got this real issue with gambling, I could probably help you with your mindset around that, but I don't understand the gambling because I've never been a gambler, right?
mm,
And it's like people who can take or leave drinking, you can't expect them to understand where we are, where we have one and then we want 10. It
yeah,
just doesn't happen.
absolutely. And one thing that did help, I got made redundant from a job, and I've got a payout for about 5 grand. This was when I was thinking I was 20, 21 perhaps. And that was a significant amount of money in 2000. Do you know what I mean? And the two of us looked at each other and we kind of said, right, do you want to go backpacking? And we did the kind of whole Thailand, Australia route. And we were gone for about 9 months. And that was a significant enough geographical for me to stop all the drugs. All the illicit drugs stopped there and then when I got on that plane to Thailand, and the drinking continued, but it was a much more controlled manner. I had no idea of alcoholism at this stage, by the way. Like this stage, I am just a lad who plays rugby in his 20s, and I like a drink, and that
Mm.
was kind of all it was. Um, but the drug stopped, which is purely because of the nature of my ex-wife, and she just wasn't into it at all. And so it was a massive positive effect on me. And of course, when you're in a foreign country, drugs are always a little bit kind of, do you want to be in a Thai prison? Not really. And so
Yeah.
there was the extra friction towards me pursuing it. And we came back from Oz, and we lived separately. We remained together, but we lived separately. She went over to Essex to Billericay to do a PGCE, and I ended up back at mum and dad's. They were living in Wales at this point. I'm from Stafford. Mum and dad had moved to Wales, and we lived separately. And I was living in a tiny village. I don't know if you know Chepstow Racecourse. There's a little village outside it called St Arvans, and there's like a single pub, a single shop, a little hamlet, and that's where I was with no car and no missus, and back from backpacking, back in with mum and dad, and it was with a bump. And this is the point that my drinking accelerated. So I've gone from living the life of a backpacker and all this new stuff on the other side of the world and all that exciting lifestyle to right, I'm back with my mum and dad. I'm not even with my missus, like, and got a job in the pub. I've been a chef for 12 years, and I'll come to the kind of hospitality industry and drinking in a moment. But without realizing that connection, my hobby was drinking. And I would sit with all the, the lads at the end of the bar every night after a shift. And even on my day off, I'd cook for mum and dad, and then I'd go down the pub because there was nothing else to do in this particular location. I'd see a lot of Sarah, like we'd go down the M4 each way, and we'd see each other on weekends and when we could. And we were very much an item, very much in love. And after that year, then I ended up moving to Billericay. She got offered a job, and we settled there for 4 years. But one thing that I really want to make a point of is my drinking had got to the stage, and it was that consistent, that when I'd moved to Essex, and I remember it like it was yesterday, Dave. I remember waking up. I had a rosé phase. I was drinking rosé bottles. I don't know why that was, but that's what I was drinking at the time. And I remember waking up in Essex when I first moved there. And when you wake up in the morning, and that first conscious thought that comes into your head before you've done anything else, literally, my eyes are still closed, my head is still on the pillow, and a bottle of rosé came into my head. The first thing before anything, rosé. And I still didn't recognize that as a problem. Thought, yeah, we could. What time was it? 11. I always call myself a never a morning drinker, right? I didn't get out of bed till 11 o'clock. So it's like a couple of hours ago by, like, got nothing on today. And it was the year I moved there, the year that England won the Ashes, and it was the whole Freddie Flintoff and all the lads then. And I just sat watching the Ashes, and it was amazing. And I started a college course in September, but God damn, I was drinking back then. Jesus Christ. And I was living in a house with 3 women, and I got a job at an agricultural college in the animal care campus. And it was all women. And then the campus next door was the equestrian campus, all women. And so I then joined the rugby club, and I picked rugby back up again. And got in mates with some South African lads, and I started having the male kind of outlet, if you like, in my life. And it just was completely orientated by alcohol. And it was great. I had my early 20s for that were fantastic. I've made some great relationships. But one thing that started to happen by kind of 24, 25, I'd started to get this intense kind of butterflies in my chest, in my stomach, and I had no idea what it was. I now know that it's anxiety, but at the time I had no understanding of what it was. Oh, it's like, I just feel a bit weird. And I'd get to rugby training in the evening, the lads are like, you playing or what? And I couldn't. And so this anxiety was starting to cost me things in my life. I loved playing rugby. It was part of my identity. And I just couldn't do it because of anxiety and mental health, which was starting to slip because of the quantities of alcohol that I was putting away. But I had no idea of how to put the two together. I had zero knowledge on the matter at all. No idea of what an alcoholic was, or alcoholism, or poor mental health, or anxiety. None of this was on my radar at all. I was just a lad skipping along in his 20s thinking, shit, what's going on? Like, now all of a sudden, like, what is this? And we went backpacking again. We left Essex. We kind of wrapped it all up, and it was a logical way to go. I think we got married actually, and it was effectively our honeymoon. We kind of went around South America, and we spent some time working on a farm. And that again, it's like an hour's drive to the next farm, never mind the town. It was like massive country, and they just drank. all the farm lads, just jugs of gin and tonic at night, finishing the fields, 40 degrees, like painting fences and that. And then it was like bang into the kitchen. Girls had cooked and wallop. It was just drinking all the way. And I just remember just sitting there with this crippling butterflies, thinking, what is going on again? And someone looked at me and said, that's anxiety, that is. What? You've got anxiety. All right. So there's a little bit like the ADHD diagnosis as a kid. It's like, right, thanks, I guess. Okay. And the alcohol made it go. And so I'd get the gin and tonic down me, and then it'd go. And then the next day it'd start to just come up across the afternoon, start increasing, regardless of my surroundings, regardless of any individuals around me. Seemingly, regardless of the frame of mind that I was in, this feeling was just starting to take me over. And then I'd have a drink and then it'd go. And then we carried on with the traveling and we got back and we settled down, and obviously fast forwarding a lot here. And the one thing that was consistent through my 20s was this whole evolution of drinking. The dosage was just slowly just creeping up. And me and my ex-wife were best mates. And we were the couple that everyone thought were going to be on the pier in our 80s, eating the chips. Do you know what I mean? And things just started getting messy and getting difficult. And I was in kitchens, and I know Gordon Ramsay has reached out with this kind of stuff to expose it all in a positive way. The amount of drugs and alcohol that are consumed in kitchens is just unbelievable. I used to go with a head chef, and we used to do bombs of speed in the basement of the pub before then going up and doing service and having a mug with whatever, drinking wine or brandy or Baileys in it, and just be sipping it all night, you know. And the other beautiful thing about hospitality is if you're a chef and you can actually cook, you can leave a job at lunchtime and be in another one by the evening. You just go across town. So somewhere in your town right now, there's a kitchen needs a chef. And I had gone from job to job to job to job to job. And I'm 43 and I'm on job 63.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I'm incredibly flighty. And I just couldn't hold a job down. And then I'd started doing all the comparisons, comparing myself to my wife at the time, married at 25. She was my wife. She was cracking on with her career. She was doing primary school teaching. She was year 6 for Senko, Literacy Co, senior management. So that's where my spouse had got to. My brother got his degree living in London. He became a chartered surveyor. He's doing very well. Mates of mine on, 30, 50, 100. I've got a mate on 120 grand a year and holding down jobs, paying a mortgage, having kids, doing well. And I was just banging my head against the wall, just the complete inability to hold a job down. And this anxiety then that was just rife by the end of my 20s, early 30s particularly. And I just didn't know why. Why can't I do what my mates, my missus, my brother, why are they able to just crack on with life? And I'm not saying they didn't get what they deserve, because they all work hard. They all got the degrees. They all got the salary that they deserve. They were all working up the slippery pole, and it's graft, and I appreciate that. But I couldn't join them on that journey. It's like I just kept falling off and getting pissed, and then falling off and getting pissed. And the consistent thing was the alcohol the whole time. And if you had my life problems, mate, you'd drink as well, because I just wasn't going anywhere. And it was Andy against the world. And I've had enough of this shit. And I couldn't work it out. I had done no research into the neurodiversity that I'd been diagnosed with. I'd done no real research into any kind of mental health. And I was just trying to plug through life, dragging myself through it, getting pissed and seeing less of my missus because she was always at work. I'm a pub drinker, and I was always in the pub. And then I'd started seeing fewer and fewer mates. because they couldn't keep up with the speed that I drank out. Because like, I know you were called Glugs, right? And I could make a pint disappear pretty quickly as well. And I couldn't be arsed with rounds and all that bullshit. And so there was two lads that used to drink at the same speed who were also struggling with their mental health. So we were very enabling of each other, and we would moan about all the same shit. And it was quite good company when I was chronically depressed and pissed, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden I couldn't be in their company either. And I just thought I'd given myself permission to be on my own because I was just quite comfortable in my own company, actually. Just a guy just kind of sorting his head out. And that was how I dealt with it. But what, of course, I was doing, I was completely isolating myself. I was completely incapable of social interactions. And I've now found out more recently, I am actually on the autism spectrum as well. So the whole social interaction thing I find difficult at the best of times. But when I was chronically depressed, pissed, socializing and interacting with other people, to the point where an example of this is because I had no interest in my nutrition whatsoever. So I was eating takeaways all the time, and I'd order a takeaway with the missus. So do you remember those old oversized Magners glasses, and you could put a pint in them with a load of ice? I had one of them, right?
Yeah.
And I'd buy a 4-pack, and I could get most of 2 cans in it, whack the others back, go and sit in the lounge with my oversized pint glass. So she just thought it was 1 can.
Yeah.
So I could whack that back, do the other 2, bottle of wine with dinner. She'd have 1, I'd finish the bottle. And all these kind of little manipulative ways that I was starting to get more alcohol in me with not getting a bollocking from me other half. And we'd order a Chinese, and I'll do the phone, you do the door. And so I could do the phone call with almost like the script, like, right, this, thanks, bye. And then I didn't have it in me to have the social interaction at the door with the geezer dropping the food off. That's how terrified I was. I was sat in my room, starving, pissed, right, I need food. You get the door, you get the door. Because I physically couldn't face interacting with another human being. So I'd got into a bit of a pickle, and me and my ex-wife, we got to the point with our relationship where it just completely broken down. She was turning to work, I was turning to booze, and we used to sit down and like, right, it's not working, is it? No, what are we going to do? Okay, I'll drink less to the table, and she was going to work less. We'll see more of each other. We'll do stuff. We'll do coupley things, whatever. We'll go for a run. We'll go for a bike ride. We'll go out. We'll do something. And we just never did. She was always couldn't get hold of her because she was at work. And so I'll go to the pub then. But by this stage, I couldn't hold a job down. So I was being given 2-week periods of sick note by the GP at this point. I was on citalopram, which is an SSRI, Ritalin for ADHD from a different doctor, I was physically monitored by my GP, but given it by a specialist. So I was also being given Valium just to calm me down. Alcohol and the cocaine was back at this point. So I had no knowledge and no chance at this point. I was just an absolute walking just cocktail of all these drugs. And it got to the point where we kind of looked at each other and said, look, we need to split up. I need to move out. And she said, yeah, I think that's the best thing for us. So then as soon as I'd moved out, it was just green light. I could drink what I wanted, when I wanted, without getting my head pecked in. And it was for about 3 months, it was wonderful. But I was just drinking in the village. I was working on a building site at this point. So I was laboring on a building site. And I was ever so proud of myself that I didn't ever have a drink at work. So I managed to get through to 5 o'clock. And I'd literally just get in my car, drive to the village, park on one side, walk to the high street, have a skinful. So they always remember this, the first 3 pints used to normalize me. So I'd feel like absolute death. And I'd get to the pub at 5 o'clock. Yes. And the first 3 pints would normalize me. Another 3 would put me in a good mood. Another 3, and I was chatting to everybody in the pub. But my dosage, my required dosage was 12 pints of Stella. And that's what I needed for me, for my what I now know is for my dopamine reward pathway to be satisfied with the quantity of alcohol. That was it, 12 pints. But I've now gone on. I just want to kind of jump backwards and forwards a little bit here to what I've learned about the brain in recovery and the notion of the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex being at war with each other after flipping time. And what I knew at the time was that part of me was screaming for a drink, and part of me just would do anything but put more alcohol in my system. And I would stand at the bar, and the first pint would be, the first pint, I would get it in my hand and I would be necking it back, and my limbic system would be shouting, yes, like we've got our medicine, we've got what we needed, this is going to make us feel better, we're going to feel fucking great after this. And then at exactly the same time, my prefrontal cortex was screaming, no, why are we drinking again? It is killing us. We cannot afford it. It's cost us our marriage. What are we doing drinking more alcohol? Same again, please, barman. Whack. And off. I was off at the races again.
Yeah.
And I now know why that is. But at the time, no idea. And I was just living in this constant turmoil of drink, don't drink, drink, don't drink. Right. I'm not going to drink for January, right? 3 days in, I'll be all right. And then I'm not going to drink for Stoptober. Week in, it's a long enough detox, a week, innit? And the permissions were easy peasy. And the point I got to, I was on this building site and I was I had stomach pain. We don't know what it was, never had it before. And it was bad. I was bent double on the building site. Like, Andy, what's up with you? It's like, I do not know. I am in pain. Go and sort it out. So I drove myself to hospital, to the A&E, and just bent double in my car, like in absolute agony. And they took me in. This little Indian doctor's like, right, how much do you drink? Why? How much alcohol are you consuming? I don't know, 6 pints, 2-3 times a week. Absolute bullshit. Okay, you've damaged your stomach lining with alcohol. Here's something for your stomach lining. Here's something for the pain. Take these. Do not drink for a month. Off you go. Okay. 4 days in, stomach lining pills must have done the job. The pain had gone. Stopped taking the painkillers. Pain's gone now. Be all right. Straight back down the pub. And at this point, I was back on the cocaine. For anyone listening who doesn't know, cocaine significantly increases your alcohol tolerance, and so your dosage goes up. And I was kind of getting after work to the village, drinking 6 pints, and I'd drive a 15-mile round trip to go and see my man in the next town to go and pick up. And then I'd go to the offie, 4-pack bottle of wine, back to the rental I was staying in, and just get it all out on the table, all on my own, Netflix, until it was gone. And another significant part of that story is the fact that my car no longer had headlights. I didn't have the ability in the day to go and to actually do a task that might benefit me in any way. I just wasn't able to do that. And so I was driving a round trip with either full beams or no headlights at all, pissed, after gear. And I consider that to be I was that warped and distorted that I consider that to be completely normal behavior. And you would if you were in my situation. And it was really messy, and it was dark, and it was the prospect of living like that for another 40 years was more than I could take. And I didn't make an attempt on my life at any point, but suicidal thoughts were daily, if not hourly. Like, what is the point? I came away from my marriage with my car and my clothes. I had no money. I was in debt to my man. I was in debt to a mate. I was in debt to my mum and dad. I was in my overdraft. Money had no value at this point at all. It was just get it by any means possible for alcohol and cocaine. And it was just, my world had just shrunk. I wasn't seeing anybody. I wasn't seeing any mates. I wasn't seeing any, well, certainly wasn't flipping dating or seeing my ex-wife. It was get through work, get some gear, drink alcohol, repeat. And that's how tiny and horrendous my world had got to. That it took everything. It took everything. And they make you work out in rehab, which is where I went to. It was at that point the word had got back to my mum and dad via my ex-wife, because my mum and dad were still in Wales. And whenever we went to mum and dad's, it was like, right, yeah, shut the gate, to the fridge, wallop, and it was all drinking. So mum and dad had never really kind of understood at the point that I got to on a daily basis, the depths that I kind of stooped to. And they'd heard about the stomach thing and the doctor. They'd heard about my behavior in the village and just being pissed, just being 100 kilos of pain in the arse in the village, pissed up. And they suggested that I got sat down. So me and the ex-wife still had dogs, and just renaming the dogs, mate, all of that was just all happening at the same time. And ex-wife was out. She said, you've got to go around to my house and sort the dogs out. Okay, I'll go around. I'll sit with them for an hour or two. Great. So I'm sat there at my ex-wife's house, in a house I am not welcome in, with dogs that I knew that were going to be rehomed. On a phone with mum and dad, like, oh, I've been offered a new job in a new kitchen, country pub. It's got loads of prospects. It's got this boss. It's got that, blah, blah, blah. They were like, don't worry about a new job. Okay, why not? We're on the motorway. We're actually coming up to see you. Why? I've got work in like 2 hours time. I've got an evening shift. Don't worry about your evening shift tonight. We've been to see the bank manager. We're on the way up. Just tell me over the phone. Why are you driving all the way up here? Just tell me. No, we're driving to see you, to tell you. And the only place that my brain went to was like, fucking hell, they've won the lottery. Don't worry. Yeah, don't worry about a job. Don't worry about your shift tonight. We've been to see the bank manager. We don't want to tell you over the phone. They've won the lottery. Yes! They got down. My missus ex-missus come in the door. Hiya, all right. Mum and dad, 5 minutes later. Yeah, surprise. Mum and dad are here. Yeah, I know I've told them to come here. Right. We think you need rehab.
Oh, that's a bit of a come down from winning the lottery, isn't it?
Yeah. What? No, I don't. Rah, rah, rah. And then all of a sudden, the way Amy Winehouse song, they say I've got to go to rehab. And I said, no. All of a sudden makes complete sense, because I haven't got to go either, Ames, to be honest. What are you on about? You drink beyond my problems. I'm just a guy in his 30s with issues, and I enjoy a drink. Sue me. Do you know what I mean? And all that horrible, defensive, upset chimp, lashing out behavior. And they were like, just think about it. Mum was like, had the rehab on the phone, follow me around the house. Mum, I can't ask you nicely again. Please take that phone away from me. No. And then I went to work, went home, got pissed, and spoke to a couple of mates, and they were like, mate, what have you got to lose? I thought, nothing. So I wrapped things up, and I said to mum and dad, yeah, okay. And it was a private 12-step residential rehab treatment centre, and it's the Haynes Clinic in Bedfordshire. If anyone knows of it. And it was fucking horrendous. Oh my God. Like well, first of all, before I even got there, the 2 nights before I was due to go, they said, yeah, we've got a bed for you on Sunday. This was on a Monday night. I was like, right, shit, I better make sure that I can drink as much as these lot. Otherwise, I'm going to look like a right fraudster going in there. I don't take heroin or anything like that. I'm going to look like a right muppet. So, right, here we go. And off I went for 48 hours. And then after that, I phoned them back. I was like, can I please come in now? And they're like, yeah, we can organize that. Come in. And I had a little aquarium. Love marine biology. And I remember just netting all the fish out of it, bagging them all up and taking them to a fish shop, and just said, have them. Just continued paying the rent while I was in rehab, so everything else could just stay. Just left it as absolute bomb site. And there was a pub next to this aquarium shop, And remember to this day, just going in, about to get on the motorway to go to rehab, 2 pints of Stella, please. Whack, whack, off they go. And just got on the road, just drove to rehab and just checked myself in. And we went straight to a meeting that night. So every evening, they call it the druggy buggy. You've got to get in the minibus and off you go to an NACA AA meeting, whatever it was. It was all 12-step. And the compulsion to drink left me that night, and I haven't had a drink since. And that was the 20th of May 2015, which was
Wow.
yesterday. So I was 9 years
Oh, well
yesterday.
done. That's
Thanks, mate.
fantastic, mate.
Yeah, so it's quite funny that you've asked this. It happened this week. That's a nice twist of fate for you, isn't it? Um, so yeah, off I went, and that was that, and then kind of did everything that was suggested. Started getting into the 12-step program. I came out a little bit early. They were like, Andy, do not leave. I was like, I was finding it more difficult being in rehab and dealing with everything that happens in that place than I was not drinking. I was like, right, I'm going back. And I did, and I left. They're like, don't leave. Of course, I had my car there. A lot of people who go get picked up. They do a pickup service. And I'd driven, so I could just get in and go. And I did. And I came back to Stafford. I went straight to a meeting, and I did 90 and 90 and followed all the suggested stuff and got a sponsor, and just got involved with AA there and then. I couldn't work, mate. I was in no place to work at all. To this day, and I am, there's nothing that I can ever do to repay them other than keep doing what I'm doing. And mum and dad looked after me during my early recovery financially, so I didn't have to worry about work. And that's what I did. I just got absolutely
Wrapped up in it
eyeballed.
all, like
Yes, and
almost like addicted to not being addicted. Like I was the same. Like when I stopped, it was like, right, I need to throw myself into something. So I trained to do the London Brighton, London Portsmouth, London Paris bike ride all within. So I lost a couple of stone, got a great PT. So I actually hyper focused on my recovery rather than the wreckage of my life. It's like, you know, my drinking was like, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore as well, but I need something else in my life because I can't just sit there tapping my fingers on the table, counting the days because there was no structure there. And it sounds like that's what you did, getting involved with the 12 steps. And it's worked, obviously. 9 years. Have you had any moments in that time that you've struggled?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think in the first 3 months were tough, and I obviously moved back into the place I'd just come from straight after rehab, and it's just like, oh my God.
You're back in the
So
real world then, aren't you? Because you're quite
yeah,
kind of looked after in
shit.
rehab, and all of a sudden you're thrown back where your mates are, the pubs are, and you
Exactly.
know,
Same village, same rental. And it's like,
yeah.
right, I've got to go. So I left there, moved back in with mum and dad in Wales, and the Welsh meetings were incredible. They were the most welcoming bunch, and it was great. And then back, but this is all within the first 3 months. So between moving out of my ex-wife's home to moving into where I am now, I moved house. I think it's 25 or 26 times in 5 years. And I've had 63 jobs, and I'm incredibly flighty. And that's how I've always been. And I think alcohol increased it, was a catalyst for that fight or flight mode, and constantly flight mode, constantly. But I think it's my neurodiversity, it is the ADHD and the autism that were really at the root of that I'd given no mind to at all until now. And yeah, the answer to your question, yes, in the first 3 months there was huge cravings to drink. It was horrendous. I'd come out of AA meetings with more questions than answers, and come out of meetings I didn't have time to share, and I didn't have the bottle to share and open my mouth, and I'd leave and just then beat myself up. Why didn't you say something, brother? So I got a sponsor, and things got a bit easier because then you've got the extra pair of ears and an educated sort of mentor with a decent bout of sobriety and a valid opinion, and started making me realize all my bullshit and all my behaviors and all the things that I needed to address, he was holding a mirror up in a very calm, neutral way and not being aggressive, not saying Andy this, Andy the other, just saying, have a look, just have a look. And then I was able to just slowly start processing stuff. And then the fog cleared again at about 18 months. Things just got a bit easier. And then it happened again. I remember I wish I could tell someone there's a silver bullet, but it hasn't been my experience. It's taken a lot of work and doing the suggested things in tandem with improving lifestyle and environment and all that kind of stuff. But I then started to get aspirations back and drive and motivation and wanted to get things from life. And I then retrained as a scuba instructor. It's like, right, okay, no, before that, I'd taken the mindset from pity part, they call it, but it's just victim mindset of, well, I've got no missus, I've got no mortgage and house, I've got no dogs anymore, I've got no kids, I've got no money, I've got blah, blah, blah. And just the whole woe is me.
And I can't even drink anymore.
Yeah. And I've fucking hell, I've got to go and sit in these dusty flipping rooms underneath churches, listening to these lot drone on about how good life is. Like, life beyond your wildest dreams. Like, I've got a pretty vivid imagination, mate. This ain't life beyond my wildest dreams. But then all of a sudden, I thought, hang on, I've got no mortgage, I've got no kids, I've got no missus, I've got no pets to worry about. Fucking hell, like, where am I going first?
Yeah.
And just that whole switch in mindset and point of view.
I love that.
Just completely opened the world up to me. I'd gone from dingy, oh my God, isn't life terrible, victim mindset, Andy, to holy shit, the world is my oyster. And where am I going with my sobriety first? And I sat down with my mum and dad and we discussed it. It's like, right, what is next then? What are we doing?
And they said, paying us back all the money you owe.
Let's get you a job then, eh? So yeah, we decided on again, this is with no real knowledge of neurodiversity at all. But I love backpacking and I love nature. When I first got into AA and into rehab, I was like, right, you've got to get a higher power. I don't know what the fuck a higher power is, but you need one, right? I'll get one. I use nature. Nature's all encompassing and the universe and all of that. So it was my first higher power, and I specifically love marine biology, specifically reefs and sharks and that whole symbiosis of like the underwater rainforest, if you like. It's just, I'm fascinated by it. And so it's like, right, I'm a physical guy. Let's have a look at scuba diving. I found this internship, text this shop in the Philippines in the middle of nowhere. And the girl who owned the shop went to the same primary school. It's like, fucking hell. Yeah. Like, right, here I come. So I went over and spent sort of 16, 18 months in the Philippines, and it was incredible. And it was everything you'd dream it would be. A little chicken chaser, you know, I've been living on this tiny little picturesque island, taking people out to see the reef every day. Structure, paradise. It was brilliant. But my head fell off. I just hadn't been going to AA meetings. I hadn't been doing any AA work. And as good as life was, there was still part of me that was being completely neglected. And as much as I thought I'd done enough work and I could go off enjoying the rest of my life now, that wasn't how it was for me. And I wasn't doing enough. And so I came back under a bit of a grey cloud and went straight to an AA meeting with everyone that I knew from years of going to meetings, and shared, it's like, I've been here, this has been happening, it's been wonderful. There's been backpacker girls, there's been this job, there's been this location, with little chicken chaser and shorts and a vest and vazzing around, it's been this, and I feel like shit. And then one of the old boys came into me and said, do you want me to take you through the rest of the steps? I hadn't finished the steps. I'd got to step 4 and put it down. He said, do you want me to take you through the rest of the steps? Like, yes, please. That would be amazing. And so we finished the steps and things got a bit easier. And then I got another job, and then COVID brought me home. I was living in the Cayman Islands and we got repatriated during COVID. And then I met Sal, and I've really settled down with Sally and moved in, and she's got 2 boys, and we've got a dog, and life has become very settled and calm, and it's been great. And what I really would like to iterate now is how much work I've done, not only on remaining sober, but on the neurodiversity that I have been diagnosed with, and having an understanding on that. That was the root of my drinking. That was what was causing the emotional trauma. That's what caused the disconnection from other people, because I was in fear of their success and compared to mine. And all this pessimism that evolved from my inability to function as others do. And I'm never going to be able to. And I know that now. But I now have just gone into absolute overdrive learning about neurology and ADHD and autism and what it is to me, and the peaks and troughs of dopamine that ADHD sufferers have. And I can still be completely hyperactive, but I can use it to my benefit now. So if I'm having those days, wow, it's like, right, what are we doing? And I can just get stuff done around the house. If Sal's having a down day, it's like, right, here I go. And I can just do everything in the house. I can go to the gym. I've been doing like CrossFit gym sessions where you're meant to stand for a minute and have a rest, and I'm still fucking going. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing extra stuff in the workout. And so I'm able to now utilize that. But then, in contrast, when I do have the down day, when the dopamine just goes through the floor, I'm not depressed. It's not because I've taken a backward step. It's just hormonal. And I can batten down the hatches, not give myself a hard time, to go, right, okay, dopamine's been up for a few days and that's down. And the mid-morning cortisol spike that we all have, that gets us out of bed, it got us out of the cave and going hunting. That cortisol spike isn't anxiety. Everyone has it. It's part of your morning routine. Bang, there you go. You're up and you're out. And it's not a reason to be scared. It's a reason to be active. And so having a handle on all these little things throughout the day and the week and the month, whatever it may be, then self-knowledge is just priceless. And I know that I'm not depressed. I know I'm not anxious. And I know I haven't got to have a drink. I know I'm loved. I know I'm connected. And I know that there's going to be some shit days. And I don't have to have a drink. That is the main crux of it all, is I don't need mind-altering substances to escape anymore. And
you've managed to put many things into your life, education, knowledge is everything. I realized when I was drinking that my life was chaotic, but I kind of became addicted to the chaos, right? So when you learn about cortisol and adrenaline, insulin, and how it runs through your body if you're constantly in fight or flight mode, which I was, because I was either up or down. I was either moody or happy. Do you know what I mean? It was a weird way of living. But that can become addictive. Your body can become addicted to the release of cortisol and insulin as well. So when I stopped, that's why I think I realized, God, I need to do something to feel like that still without drinking. And this is where a lot of people struggle, because they don't know what to do. And you found education, but also exercise. So we can come on to this, because you've got Sal, you've got the dog, he's got the kids, you're all settled down now. So obviously the future for you looks like you're going to be in your rocking chair. Sal's going to put a blanket over your lap, and you're going to put Emmerdale on. And you, or is that, am I not right there?
She'd probably put a blanket over my head, mate, to be honest, half the time.
I mean, like, I can't see that happening, but there's something you're doing coming up that I want to wrap the podcast up with, because this is how we got together, wasn't it? It's like,
it is,
someone recommended you to me, and I looked at your story, and we had a little phone call, didn't we? And it's like, this man is crazy. What have you got coming up?
Yeah, I can still do stupid shit, mate. I'm just sober doing it now. So yeah, this year I have organised to swim the English Channel. That's in September. This is off the back of A challenge that I did 2 years ago. I set a Guinness World Record in triathlon for completing 70 half iron distance, so 70.3 mile triathlons in 75 days. It was a huge cortisol challenge, basically. It's like, right, okay, I've got a handle on cortisol now. Let's see what I can do. And so we did that and we put it in the weight and we achieved it. It was an 18-month project and it went really well. And we were both really, really made up. And I'm now, it's the whole concept. Oh, so what's next then, Andy? It's got to be bigger and better, on it. So if the channel goes well this year and we can organize the corporate sponsorship, I'm hoping to be the first person to officially swim across the Atlantic.
Oh my God. I mean, that's insane. And how long's that going to take?
So it would be from North Brazil to West Africa. So it would be about 2,200 miles, which would beat the current record set by Ross Edgley. He swam around Great Britain. And it would be the equivalent of swimming the English Channel for 110 days in a row with no rest day. So to adhere to the World Open Water Swimming Association criteria, I have to get in the water every day. So we'd be going with a 2 knot current, give or take. And I could walk off the beach in Brazil, swim for 20 miles, the boat will collect me. We'd then remain in the same spot. We'd mark the location that I got out, eat, sleep, get back in within 1 nautical mile of where I got out, and then just repeat. And then I'd walk up the beach in Africa somewhere. And so, yeah, it would be swimming the English Channel every day for 3.5 months, equivalent of.
Insane.
Yeah.
Bloody exciting.
Oh, mate. So me and Salah, we feel the same about this challenge as we did the triathlons. And as I say, that was a big one. And we pulled it off. So we know it's a big ask financially. So we've still got that hurdle, but we're kind of trying to make little inroads where we can with that. And we're quietly confident at the moment. But yeah, it feels the same as it did last time. And I think I can go and get involved, because this is me utilizing my ADHD and having having that dopamine target, having the hyperactivity, so can just jump in the pool and do 4 hours at a minute and it's all good, and then go and do a PT session, and instead of having this crippling, vile, horrible, negative victim mindset, because, oh, my ADHD, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, hang on, let's do what you can do and utilize and harness that. And I'm doing shit that other people can't.
See, I can see how you flipped your victim mentality straight on its head there.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly that.
You know, I'm a true believer in mindset and how you can flip it. And that's what I had to do with my drinking as well, because I was in such a black rabbit hole that it would have been easy for me to say, do you know what? You've been doing it 40 years. Fuck it, go out in glory. You know, I had visions of my tombstone with Glugsy, loved to drink, and about 3 landlords standing around the tombstone crying because of their bar takings were down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But to be honest, they were visions even when I was drinking on my own, because I stopped going to the pub. But it was almost like romanticizing my death. And I had to flip it on its head and go, you know, I either go left or right in this life. Left is to the graveyard, right is to do something with my life. And I thought about the amazing people that I've got in my life, and it really helped me, you know. And, you know, the steps helped you. Mine was a different kind of community. But I always say, I've said it before, and I'll drive people mad, my analogies, but if you were me to go shopping, we're not going to like the same shop. You go in mine, you go, it's not really my thing. I'll go in yours the same, and we meet on middle ground or whatnot. But we have to find what works for us. And a bit like your ADHD, you found that exercise really, really helps you. And it's amazing. And I'm hoping from this episode, there might be someone in corporate or whoever it is listening to this and go, do you know what? I'll help you out.
Amazing.
You know? And also, I think it's great that you've got some incredible people in life, like your mum and dad. Sal sounds amazing, you know, and these are solid, pivotal people in our recovery journeys, aren't they, that keep you going?
Absolutely. And I am a firm believer that the trauma of addiction comes in quite a large part from isolation and loss of connection with other human beings, and the community I've got around me now is incredible. It's night and day, and that's come from them being able to me regaining their trust, and me doing the right thing, and being well and healthy and clean and cracking on with life.
Mm.
And it's just, I can't emphasize enough just how night and day it has become for me. The whole, I was just, I hated myself. I hated life. I hated my situation. And now I've got, Guinness World Record hanging on the wall.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, like it was 8 hours a day. It was the equivalent of going from 4 lengths of the English Channel and then going from Calais to Beijing, cycling and running. And so you can have a hard life and come out of it with a crippling addiction to our drugs and alcohol, or do something hard and come out with the world record.
Amazing.
Yeah, and like there's no point. I did it in 75 days, so I did 2 bouts of 35, and so there was no point in me worrying about day 63 when I'm on day 4. Same as there's no point in me worrying about Christmas Day and getting pissed. It's like it's a day at a time.
Mm.
And there's so many tools that I was able to take across just like that practice these principles in all of your affairs. And that's what I do. It's you take things that you learn, these concepts in rehab and AA, utilize them in life, and they bear fruit.
Yeah.
And I want to sort of fly the flag for that, for people with neurodiversity, people with addiction and early recovery. You can do it. I am a walking, talking representation of get it right and you'll thrive.
Yeah. Mate, you've been a true inspiration today. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story, and I'm sure you've inspired thousands of others. So thank you so much, mate, for coming on my podcast. And keep me posted about your progress and what you're doing.
Thank you, mate. Will do. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, mate.